welcome all of you to this meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 32 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Agriculture and Agri-Food. Pursuant to the order of reference of Wednesday, February 24th, 2021, and the motion adoption on Thursday, April 22nd, the committee is commencing the clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-206, an act to amend the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act, qualifying farming fuel. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format pursuant to the House Order of January 25th, 2021, and therefore members are attending in person, in the room, and remotely using the Zoom application. The proceedings will be made available via the House of Commons website. So you are aware, the webcast will always show the person speaking rather than the entirety of the committee. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind all participants to this meeting that screenshot or taking photos of your screen is not permitted. In
order to ensure the smooth functioning of the meeting, I would like to remind you of certain rules before speaking. Please wait for me to call on you. If you are on video conference, please open your mic. The mics of participants in the room will be controlled as usual by the technical staff. I remind you that all comments made by members and witnesses must be made through the chair. If you are not speaking, please put your microphone on mute.
Clause-by-clause consideration. Just to let you know, we will, once we've done this, we'll go into in camera, and there's another link, so we'll have to disconnect and come back to go in camera to do the business portion of this meeting. So we'll get into the clause-by-clause consideration of Bill C-206, and we will start with Mr. Lawrence. You have submitted an amendment, so I'll give you the floor, Mr. Lawrence, if you want to move that amendment. Go ahead, Mr. Lawrence.
Yes, I'd like to move the amendment as put forward to the clerk. This amendment is meant to include barn heating with respect to my private member's bill. Obviously, through the series of testimony, it was shown that barn heating Sorry, can you not hear me? No sound? Oh, sorry.
The chair's on mute, but you cut out for about 25 seconds, Phil.
Okay.
Exactly. That's what I said when my lips were moving. Thanks, Cody.
I think Cody's maybe got a career as a chair there. I'm just saying. Yeah. So this is it's the first of two amendments. Our first amendment is one with respect to barn heating. And so you can see my daughter behind me. And then this is to include barn heating. You can tell throughout the testimony there was a number of stakeholders who said that barn heating should be included in that private member's bill. And so this is the amendment we're putting forward. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Lawrence, and good day to your daughter behind you. Hi. And so, Ms. Lawrence, I have looked at the amendment and have consulted with the procedure resource that we have. And my ruling on this is the bill's only object is to add marketable natural gas and propane to the definition of qualifying farming fuel. The amendment removes a part of the definition of eligibility farming machinery, which is not envisioned or amended by the bill. The House of Commons Procedure and Practice, 3rd edition states on page 770, an amendment to a bill that was referred to committee after second reading is out of order if it is beyond the scope and principle of the bill. For the reasons stated above, the amendment is therefore inadmissible as it goes beyond the scope of the bill as adopted at second reading by the House. So that is my ruling on that. It is not debatable. However, I mean, I can be challenged, but this is my ruling.
Yeah, inconsistent. It be consistent with the tone of this committee and the discussions, and in the minority parliament, I'll choose not to challenge the chair and respect your ruling. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. And so we'll go with the second amendment. So CPC 2. Mr. Lawrence, again, with your second amendment.
Perfect. So the second amendment, Leanne, did you want to? Sorry, okay, sorry, my apologies. The second amendment is to include aviation fuel. This was also came up in testimony, also in consultation with our stakeholders, that aviation fuel could be used in an environmental way, and that it's used in the protection of crops, no different than natural gas, propane, and I would also say diesel as well as gasoline. There's really no reason why it should be excluded from the exemption. And so after consultations, we decided to put this amendment forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Any discussion on that before we make a vote? Mrs. Rood, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for not changing my name for me.
Lude was not a good name, sorry.
I would just like to add to that discussion, Chair, that aviation fuel is also used in the greenhouse industry a lot as part of growing their crops for shading greenhouses and removing the shade at the end of the season. And it is a great expense to greenhouse growers to be able to do that. And so I think that it's in the spirit of this bill, it would be great to include that because it is a high cost item and it's something that's absolutely essential for crop growing, as well as spraying in fields. I would add for those that can't get in their fields with traditional sprayers, using helicopters, especially in some plains in some areas, to do the spraying of the crops is essential.
I should be used to this by now, but Mr. McGregor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding CPC2, I was searching witness testimony and I couldn't find any reference to any witness testimony talking about aviation gasoline. There was one reference to aviation that was made on April the 29th by Mr. Gatala from Advanced Biofuels Canada. And I know that this amendment is in order, but I guess my concern is that it's kind of like mission creep. Adding aviation gasoline to this bill is a significant expansion from what the House voted on in principle at second reading. So I guess first step, if Mr. Lawrence can illuminate specifically where we had aviation gasoline mentioned, because I couldn't find it in the testimony. Was it in a brief? I didn't see much reference during committee hearings on the bill.
Mr. Chair, may I proceed?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. And so I honestly, I don't have the exact point, but I do recall a couple of mentions of the aviation. I do also say, I mean, it is consistent with the bill in that we are looking to give equitable treatment across agriculture, whether someone's using propane or whether they're using diesel or natural gas or aviation. These fuels are all of similar use, and I think the logic holds up. I would also say it's within the scope of the bill, as it is just an addition thereupon. I'll yield to my colleague there. I see his hand up there.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Epp?
Yeah, in support of what MP Lawrence was just saying, I know I can personally testify to the fact that we have used aviation fuel in our own crops, in our own cropping systems. And so I fail to see how this inclusion would not be as part of a scope that was contemplated by the House when it was moved to our committee.
Thank you, Mr. Epp. Mr. Steinley?
Yeah, not to pile on, but there are many aerial spraying applicators in and outside of Regina that do this for a living, and it is part of the agriculture industry and agriculture sector where I'm from and throughout throughout all of Canada. So I think it fits quite well with the mandate of this bill. So I'd just leave it at that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Steinley. And I believe we have Mr. McGregor again. Go ahead, Mr. McGregor.
Yeah, and I don't want to belabor the point too much more. It's just that you know, when I was first approached with the idea for a fix in this section, I think it was back in January of 2020, the before times, before the pandemic hit us. And I think I can remember, you know, speaking with the Keystone agricultural producers, a number of farm organizations had identified the need to exempt natural gas and propane. There was a lot of conversation about the harvest from hell. So, you know, when C206 came about, and I devoted a considerable amount of my second reading speech in support of the bill, the intent behind the bill was always to address substantial grain drying costs that farmers had. I've never, ever heard any arguments up until this point made in favor of expanding it to include aviation gasoline. I mean, I guess, you know, perhaps I could have been convinced back then, but we've gone so far along the process on C206 to have this suddenly come forward like this doesn't give us a lot of time to really consider it fully. So I guess that's my counterpoint is that I have yet to see the evidence that was presented at committee where substantive arguments were made in favor of adding aviation gasoline. Like I said, I did a word search of all of the witness testimony. There was only one mention of the word aviation. It wasn't aviation gasoline, and that was made on April the 29th. So unless I'm missing something from briefs, I'd appreciate it if I could be, I understand the rationale behind it, but we haven't had the witness testimony really underlying and making the case for it up to this point. I've always understood that it was for grain drying, and grain drying was the sole impetus behind this bill. This just seems like a bit of mission creep in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. And Mr. Lawrence, you want to reply?
Yeah, I think with the blessing of the chair, I'll withdraw this amendment. And given Mr. McGregor's convincing argument there, and obviously in a minority parliament, it's critical that we can get as close to consensus as we can. And so Mr. McGregor has convinced me and with his compelling argument, and so with the consent of the chair, I will withdraw this amendment.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. So we shall withdraw the amendment. Thank you, Mr. McGregor. And Mr. McGregor, you didn't want to reply, right? That was okay. Okay, so with this, we'll go to NDP 1. Mr. McGregor, I'll give you the floor to talk about your amendment.
Yes, thank you, colleagues. So what my amendment does is it essentially sets a sunset clause on this change to the definition. It will set a sunset. The clock will start ticking once the act receives royal assent, and then it will give a 10-year window where the original definition of qualifying farm fuel will then be reinstated. This was, I guess, my attempt to try and find some middle ground between witness testimony that we heard from groups like, you know, Farmers for Climate Solutions, the David Suzuki Foundation, and the Pembina Institute versus people on the other side of the spectrum, farmers that we heard from themselves, Mr. Serge Bowie from the Innovation Council, you know, who I think quite clearly said that the technology out there, like other options, are just simply not commercially viable at present. So this, I think, you know, he did mention 10 years at a conservative estimate. So I think this gives a 10-year window up to the year, you know, 2031, if we receive royal assent on this bill. And I think in that 10 years, and you know, given the increasing challenges that are going to be faced by climate change, you know, if we haven't found solutions by 2031, I'm going to be quite concerned with the state of our country and indeed the whole world. So this is my attempt to find a middle ground, recognizing that there are no viable alternatives at present, but also, I guess, starting a clock for the reinstatement of the original definition so that we're all working with a timeline in mind, and there's a little bit of impetus to try and get those commercially viable options available to farmers as fast as possible. And, you know, there's a whole other suite of policy options that I hope will be adopted in the interim. You know, there's interesting ways that can be done in rewarding farmers for sequestering carbon and so on. I'm sure there will be more federal investments in clean technology, more efficient dryers and so on. So I think, you know, I hope colleagues will find that this is a fairly reasonable timeframe to put into place. And I'll stop there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor, for your comments on your amendment. And I see Mr. Stanley. I have to look twice, Mr. Stanley, with your new summer look, but I believe it's you in the photo. So
it is me, and I appreciate that. I feel 10 years younger. But on this amendment, I am no fortune teller, but I believe Mr. McGregor may be in this chamber for a long time. And if you'd like to see some changes made to this bill, I think he will have the capacity and the capability to bring forward private members' bills changes to this legislation. So Mr. Bowie did talk about 10 years, but it could be 10 years or 15 years. So why wouldn't the sunset clause be 15 years? So I think we should pass this bill as is. And then if Mr. McGregor, if the technology comes to pass, maybe even sooner, so it may come in 5 years, and if that technology comes to pass, we can make changes to this bill and see what Mr. McGregor or anyone else wants to do with this bill going down the road. But I don't want to think that we need to do a sunset clause now, because it could happen sooner if Mr. McGregor and technology could be there sooner, so it maybe not have to be a 10-year sunset clause. So I think let's pass this bill as is and then have other parliaments be able to deal with it in the future when that situation does arise.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley. Mr. McGregor. I guess, Mr. McGregor, you're on mute.
I can allow Mr. Perron to go. I think his hand came up. I'll listen to his point of view before I respond.
Sure, Monsieur Perron. Sorry about that. Excusez-moi, Monsieur Perron. Allez-y.
Merci, Monsieur McGregor.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. But I think that you raised your hand before me. But in any case, I agree with that, and I appreciate the argument made by the NDP on this. Concerning the 10 years, you will recall that I was one of the MPs that asked a lot of questions on the possibility of having a time limit. So I have a question. Maybe there's a problem because I propose not to adopt a time amendment because oil and light oil will still be exempted in 10 years also. So I don't know if there would be a way to word the amendment to say that the whole clause would be reviewed 10 years from now. Could that be acceptable? I wasn't sure that I could do something that would be acceptable, so I decided not to do anything. But I would agree with that. And my fear, Mr. McGregor, is that 10 years from now, we will make a step forward if we find other alternatives for farm machinery. So I don't know. The discussion is open.
Yeah, so I'll address Mr. Stanley's comments first. You know, he's very right. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. Who knows where we will be in 10 years? I guess in directly responding to his point, the Act currently allows for a prescribed type of fuel. So the executive branch of government already within the parent act has the tools to make regulations to prescribe a type of fuel. So, you know, it is within the executive branch's power to you know, rapidly adapt to changing circumstances. But, you know, I think, you know, hopefully by the year 2031, we are certainly well on our way to using alternative forms of energy. With respect to Monsieur Perron's point, I was having some back and forth with the legislative drafters, and in fact, the first amendment they gave to me was a consideration of having a review mechanism in place. Unfortunately, it would have extended the length of the current bill by another page and a half. It looked overly complex. So I decided to do away with that possibility and go with a simple sunset clause. And that's where I arrived at with NDP 1.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. I don't see any. Mr. Blois, go ahead, Mr. Blois.
I just thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'll go on the record of saying I don't really have a perspective one way or other on Mr. McGregor's particular amendment. I think when I look at the entire work that has been done on this particular bill, I think the intent and the spirit of what Mr. Lawrence was trying to do is laudable, as I've said in the past. I think it's flawed in the sense that it didn't include amendments around the type of activities and equipment that is in the definition of this particular Greenhouse Gas Pricing Pollution Act. I think that is part of the fatal flaw of this particular piece. But I guess would Mr. McGregor have any comments on that broader, notwithstanding I see where he's trying to go with the 10 years to try to find that strike and balance between technology getting caught up to where we're at, but also the idea that we want to continue to move on climate change. Does he recognize and does he sit where I sit about some of the concerns about the definition around the farming activity, around the machinery that was not really addressed, and of course can't be addressed because we're already at this process in the game, so to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Blois. Mr. McGregor.
Yeah, no, I know there were some concerns raised about that during our committee hearing, but I guess, you know, Mr. Lawrence, I think, was pretty clear from his first meeting that, you know, he had gone over this with the legislative drafters and was quite satisfied along with them that the current wording of the bill would be interpreted in a way that would allow for natural gas and propane to be used as a farm fuel for a farm purpose in farming machinery. I think the part of the existing act, the parent act that refers to the heating and cooling, I think that's more broadly interpreted as sort of, you know, something to do with a greenhouse, heating a barn and so on, not really for a machine that you're hooking up to a grain silo to help dry everything in. So I'm satisfied with that interpretation, and I think I addressed everything that Mr. Blois was talking about.
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. Mr. Epp.
Yes, specifically to Mr. McGregor's amendment. You know, from the testimony that we heard, agriculture has a very, very strong track record of adopting technology, adopting environmental improvements whenever they are feasible. And so I guess in that spirit, and because we can't predict that timeline, I would really caution us in putting a fixed hard date on something, because if that technology isn't there, what have we accomplished by that? I understand the motivation for it as being a spurring mechanism to drive that, but as you know, as testimony has shown, agriculture doesn't need that. Agriculture does that on its own.
Thank you, Mr. Epp. So at this stage, I see no hand raised. I think we had a good discussion. I think we will take this to a vote. We can do it like we usually do it, just by a show of hand, and I'll ask the clerk to count the people for, against, or abstain. So at this stage, if everyone's willing, I will ask if the amendment presented by NDP 1, if they are for that amendment. So you can show your hand if you are for the amendment. Madam Clerk, if you want to register the count the number of votes.
Mr. Lawrence, you cannot vote since Mr. Steinley is here. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to be clear that I'd like to abstain on my particular vote. I guess we're just doing a show of hands, but I'm going to abstain.
Yeah. Yes, I will ask. I will ask. So once we are done with the people supporting it, the members supporting it, I'll wait for the clerk to give me the go ahead.
So I have Mr. Epp, Mr. McGregor, Mr. Steinley, Mr. Perron, Ms. Rude, and Monsieur Lehoux.
Okay, everybody been registered if you're supporting it. Okay, and I will ask who are opposed or against the amendment. I believe, Madam Clerk, we have no one against the amendment on my screen, and I will ask who wants to abstain from voting. And Madam Clerk, you have the count on that.
So 6-4 and 5 people abstain and nobody is against.
So 6-4. So therefore, the motion is adopted as amended. The amendment is voted on, adopted. Okay. So with that, we'll go through the regular the question. So I'll start with NDP, right? Just give me a second.
I can help, Mr. Chair, the legislative clerk here.
Yes. So thank you, Philip. So I don't need to mention CP1, CP2 at this stage, right?
No, they have been dealt with already. So
Okay.
the next question would be on the clause. Shall clause 1 carry as amended?
Okay. Okay. So we'll just go down the list. So shall clause 1 carry as amended? And the ones who are in favor. Madam Clerk, you have you're counting the votes.
So if you could just keep your hand up, please. Mr. Lawrence, as Mr. Steinley is not here, you can. Okay, so just to make sure, I have Mr. Epp, Mr. McGregor, Mr. Lehoux, Mr. Perron, Ms. Rude, and Mr. Lawrence.
Mr. Chair, just so I'm clear, we're voting on clause 1 of the, are we voting on Mr. McGregor still in terms of accepting this, or on the overall contents? Just so I'm clear. It wasn't clear to me.
So yes, you're voting on clause 1 as amended, I believe. And Philip, you might clarify, but I believe that's what it is, right, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Yes, NDP 1 was adopted already. So now the question is on shall clause 1 as amended, since NDP 1 was carried already. So shall clause 1 as amended carry? So that's the question at the moment.
Are you good, Mr. Blois? Okay. So, Madam Clerk, did we register all the votes?
Yeah, all the votes that are for clause 1 as amended have been registered.
Okay, and now I'll ask opposed to clause 1.
That's good, thank you.
Okay, and abstain. All who abstain. Okay. So do we have the results, Madam Clerk, on clause 1?
Yeah, so I have 6-4 and 4 against.
Okay, so adopted. Okay, we have that done, and now shall the title carry? The title, do I have it here? So the title, which is an act to amend the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act, in brackets, qualifying farming fuel. Shall the title carry? You can show raise of hand if you're all okay with the title. All for it.
Mr. Chair, this is just voting on the title of the bill.
Exactly.
staying the same. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
don't think
Just want to
anyone-
make sure we. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And we got a count, Madam Clerk. Okay. Opposed to the title? Anyone opposed to the title as it is presented? And anyone abstaining? Okay, abstain. So, Madam Clerk, if you have the results of the vote.
Yes, we have 10 for and 1 abstain and nobody against.
So pass. So the title will is adopted, and shall the bill as amended carry? So raise your hand if you want to vote for the bill as amended.
So I have Mr. McGregor, Mr. Perron, Ms. Rude, Mr. Epp, Mr. Leroux, and Mr. Lawrence. Thank you.
Okay, you all heard your name there, the ones that voted for it. Against the bill as amended.
Thank you.
Okay, and you abstain? Any abstention? Okay, and you can give us the results once you have them, Madam Clerk.
So 6 for and 5 against.
Okay, so carried. And shall the chair, that's hard to say. Shall the chair report the bill as amended to the House?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Can you just explain that one? I want to make sure I do the right thing. Can you explain what we're voting on this one?
So we voted on the amendment, and now I'm asking the question: if the committee wants the chair to present report the bill to the House. Okay, let's raise again your hands up if you do wish that the chair reports to the House.
All right, thank you.
Those opposing the report of the bill to the House.
So that's 6 for and 5 against.
Okay, thank you. I shall report the bill to the House. And finally, shall the committee order a reprint of the bill as amended for the use of the House at report stage? And I'm not exactly sure if that's, and maybe Philippe can help us on that. Is that common when we have amendment? Is that what this means?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is a customary question when you have amendments adopted. If you were to defeat that question, the result would be no reprint of the bill, and therefore you would have attached amendments that would have to be separate from the bill. So it would be not very practical to do.
Okay, so hopefully everybody understands. So shall the committee order a reprint of the bill as amended for the use of the House at report stage? So if you want to show by a hand vote, if you support that at this stage.
So that's 11 for.
Okay, so I believe that's unanimous. There's no opposing or abstention. Okay, well, that takes care of that business. And with that, I thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence, for your appearance to this committee, for the several meetings that you were there. And a great job to everyone. And with that, we'll just log out and then come back in. I think you've all been sent a new Zoom link, and we'll see you on the other side ASAP for businesses. Thank you.
you.